All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm here with Greg and Warren. This is Greg's first formal coaching session for Greg, and I got Warren as well. Warren Beattie, as you know, is a movie star, and Greg is his evil twin. So here we are, the three of us together, and Greg and Warren have formed, I guess, a co-venture. They want to do some real estate investing, and like so many other people, the idea is to to develop some income streams that are separate from what Warren does, which he's a cabinet maker, woodworker, and many other things. And Greg, you have a real job, unlike Warren and me. You actually have a job, right?
I do, yeah.
All right.
Executive
So,
government.
yeah, you're an executive for the Canadian Armed Forces, right?
Correct.
All right, and we're recording this. So Warren, if it's okay with you, one of the things that Greg asked me, and I'm happy to share it with you if you want, is how I built my own real estate portfolio. And I thought it'd be useful. I don't think you've ever heard the real story, Warren, and certainly Greg hasn't. So I thought I would actually tell you a little bit about what my experience was like.
Absolutely.
All right. Warren does know this part of my story. In the mid 2000s, the Ottawa Senators went broke, and as you know, Craig, I'm the founder of the Ottawa Senators, and I had a wonderful career. It kind of went like this. I was a university professor. I got my PhD at the Australian National University. I had done some development work, and I was going along pretty well in building wealth and everything else. And then I had this crazy idea to buy a National Hockey League team. And I bought a team, an NHL expansion team in 1990. We closed on the transaction in 91, and the team took the ice in 92. And in the first year that we operated the Ottawa Senators in the second smallest arena in the NHL, we made almost $10 million in profit, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So life was pretty good. I have a beautiful wife and 5 kids, and now I've got a bunch of grandkids. Life was pretty good. So the company I owned had office buildings, shopping plazas, a few thousand acres of land. It was in the land development business. We were in the mini office business, which today is called co-working space. I started Ottawa Business News, which is a local newspaper now called Ottawa Business Journal. So we had a diverse company with about 350 employees, and we were doing about $120 million a year in revenues. And it was quite profitable. We were profitable. Some years we'd make $7 or $8 million a year. Some years we'd have a little bit more, 10 or 12 million. And so, life was good. And my 5 kids had a nanny and a cook and pretty much anything they wanted. And my wife too. She was a stay-at-home mom. And then in the mid 2000s, what happened was when we bought the Sens, the Canadian dollar was 90 cents. And then by 2000 and whatever, it was down to, I think, 62 or 63 cents. And payroll went from, I think our first year payroll was around 6.5 million Canadian dollars, and 10 or 12 years later, it was 84 million. So if you try that in your business, Warren, you'd probably be out of business.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not doing any more production. You're not producing any more custom furniture. You're just paying your staff, 15 times more than you were a few years ago. Yeah. So unfortunately, the team went broke, and everything I owned, went away. And so, there I was. Warren, you've seen my old gray Saab. You know my Saab?
Yep.
That is the only thing that I have from the bankruptcy. And my wife tells me every few months, get rid of that old thing. But I'm emotionally attached to it, and I can't get rid of it.
Absolutely.
So every couple of years I repaint it, and I don't want to tell you how much I spend, keeping it on the road. It's ridiculous, really. My wife has a new car, but I don't. So I keep it on the road because it's the only thing I have left. So
Yeah.
there I was, Greg, in I think 2004, maybe, no, it was a little later than that, 2007, I think. And when the bankruptcy estate was settled, I was owed personally $55.6 million, and my settlement was $3,500. So I never bothered to calculate how many cents on the dollar it is, but it's like 0.0000 something cents on the dollar. It's pretty tiny. And so, you know, I lost my house, I lost all of the buildings. I had to leave the company that, you know, Warren, you know what it's like when you build your own company and you have 350 employees. It is kind of like another family, right?
Absolutely.
And so it was a pretty sad day. And what I say to myself and I say to my clients is when bad things happen, you have 3 days. You know, the first day you can be sad, the second day you can be mad, and then the third day you got to get up and get a bit of exercise and get on with the rest of your life. And I don't think it took me 3 days. I think I was okay to move on after day 2. But 3 days, that's it. You just got to move on. And unfortunately, Greg, I wasn't at zero. I was at minus $1.7 million. I owed $1.1 million to the CIBC personally, and I owed $650,000 to Canada. So I had about 1.75 million in debt. It would have been a joyful day if I'd come out of that with zero. But, you know, I'd put so much of my time and effort into building the NHL team, the Ottawa Senators, in the Palladium, which is now called Canadian Tire Center, that I didn't really take care of myself. And so what I did at that point, Greg and Warren, is I said to my wife, well, my plan obviously didn't work. You know, I still had 5 kids at home. I had a mother-in-law to take care of, my wife to take care of. I had no money. In fact, I owed a lot of money, and I wasn't sure what to do. So, Greg, I went out and I interviewed 3 of the so-called top financial planners in Ottawa. And I said to my wife, Dawn, who I love dearly, I said, honey, you know, I've kind of let you down. You know, my job was to provide for the family, and her job was to take care of the family, including me. And I said to her, frankly, this is probably a good time for you to leave the marriage, you know, if you want. Just simply because, you know, I didn't keep my end of the bargain up, and I would completely understand if that was what you decided to do. And she didn't think about it very long, and she said, no, I'm sticking with it. And I told her, well, you know, you're still young enough and pretty enough, you get another husband. But she decided not to do that, which I really, I treasure that. So anyway, so I had to go and spend time with the CIBC. And those guys are like the guys who wear the white sheets with the little, you know, I mean, those guys are pretty scary, you know, when you owe the money.
Yep.
And so I went to see the CIBC. It's called the Special Loans Group, special meaning special bad. And I went to see the Special Loans Group, and I said, I owe you guys 1.1 million. I'm aware of that. And I'm going to come up with a plan to repay you. And then they said, well, what's your plan? I said, well, I don't actually have one right now. This just happened. I got my settlement. It was $3,500. It's not going to go very far. But if you give me a standstill agreement for 3 months, I will come back to you within 3 months, and I will have a plan. And they hummed and hawed, and, you know, they threatened a little bit, they bullied. But I said, well, look, either you give me 3 months or you don't. It's up to you. If you don't, I'm just going to go bankrupt. But I didn't want to go bankrupt because if you're bankrupt, you can't sit on the board of directors of a public company. You can't be a realtor, for example. There's a lot of things you can't do. And of course, your credit rating is in the toilet. But I said, you'll leave me no choice. I mean, you know, I can't pay you today, so it's up to you. But they eventually agreed. You know, it took about a week or so to get an agreement. And then I went to Canada Revenue Agency and I made the same deal. And they were actually a little easier to deal with. They said, we'll wait 3 months. You know, we'll see what happens. So I went back after 3 months and I told them, you know, I was going to get a job. But in addition to that, I had a plan through real estate to pull myself out of it. I said, maybe I don't know anything else, but I know a little bit about real estate and I could probably pay you back. And I made a deal with both the bank and CRA to pay them back over 10 years but I had a condition, and the condition was that they didn't charge me any interest. I said, if you charge me, 8% interest, I'll never pay it off. I was 54 years of age, by the way, Greg. So I wasn't young. If I had been 34, it would have been a big, it would have been horrible, but it would have been better because you have a lot more runway at 34 than you do at 54. And both of them, I have to give them credit, agreed. So I had to repay 1.75 million over 10 years, basically $175,000 a year. And they accepted that, and the plan, as long as I made good on my payments, so that they were okay with that. And I just want to show you the very first building that I bought to answer your question, Greg. And I'm going to share my screen with you. So one of the things, can you see my screen okay, guys?
Yep.
Yep.
So one of the things that I've learned in business, and in fact, I learned this from Rod Brydon. Rod Brydon was also involved in the Senators. He was the one who bankrupted the team. And there's a lot of people who will criticize Rod. He has bankrupted at least 7 or 8 companies with probably about $1.5 billion in other people's money gone down the drain, including mine. But he's a very smart man. He's a lawyer. That should give you all the clues you need. One of the things that Rod said that I think is right: when you're in financial trouble, don't sell something, buy it. Completely opposite of anybody else's advice. If, God forbid, Greg, you or Warren were to get into financial trouble, your banker, your accountant, your lawyer, your friends, your family, they'll all say, sell, sell, sell. But what Rod said is that's actually bad advice. That is a good time to buy. And I'll show you what I did. So there was this townhouse that was for sale on Ambleside Drive in Ottawa. And this would have been, I think, 2008 or something like that. And it had been for sale, days on market for, I think, 300 or 400 days. Think about that.
Wow.
And I thought, why in the world would a kind of a nice townhouse be on the market for that long? And one of the keys to being a good real estate investor that I really want to convey to you, Greg, and to Warren, is that you make money in real estate when you buy, not when you sell, not when you refinance, when you buy. So you've got to buy smart, right? And my dad taught me to be patient. And my dad, he was obviously brought up in a different era, was a little bit politically incorrect. He said, real estate's a lot like chasing after girls. I said, how's that, Dad? And he said, well, 20 girls go by, and you let 19 of them then go by. That's not for me. No, that's not for me. And then you find the one that you think, that's the girl for me. You grab her. Now, that's obviously politically incorrect today, but in a way, he's right. So I don't want you guys to get impatient. If you lose a few deals, you try and put some things together, it doesn't work out, maybe your offers are too low, they're rejected, and then you start to get frantic, and then you buy the next thing. That is a mistake. So I want you guys to make sure that you write down on a piece of paper, if you don't mind taking a couple notes, write down patience. But when the right deal comes along, you strike. So that was my dad's advice, and he was a very smart man, a lot smarter than his son. So anyway, so I went into this building. This is my wife here, Greg, Dawn. You've met Dawn, I think, Warren.
I have.
Yeah. So this is Dawn McMillan, and for some reason she's put up with me for 36 years. So what we found was, this is, I'll just show you the map. So this is the townhouse over here. There's a group of townhouses over here, very close to the Ottawa River. It's a 4-minute walk to what will be the new LRT station. So it's in a very good location. Even back then I knew that. It's not far, it's walking distance to Farm Boy, so it's close to shopping. So I like that. Farm Boy is really popular. It's not far from Britannia Beach. Everybody likes the beach. I do anyway. Here's me, by the way, on my e-bike. So when I was living at Ambleside Drive, we didn't eventually buy this. I have a little e-scooter. It's doesn't go very fast, but I have a lot of fun with it. So I can, it's close to everything. You can drag your kayaks to the Ottawa River, so we would go kayaking. It's not far from downtown. It's about an 11-minute drive to downtown. And when the LRT comes to Ambleside Drive in the next 3 or 4 years, probably will take 6 or 7 minutes, maybe 8 or 9 minutes to get downtown from there. So it's pretty good. Now, before I show you these pictures, I just want to tell you what happened. So what happened was, I couldn't figure out why a really nice townhouse, or what I thought was a nice townhouse, would be on the market for 300 or 400 days. And DOM is one of the key things that I want you guys to look at as you're evaluating property. DOM, all the realtors will know what it means, days on market. So, you know, in terms of the plan that I came up with, at one point, Greg, I had 5 full-time jobs, 5. I went back to being a teacher at the university. I was teaching at Carleton University, at the University of Ottawa. I was a realtor. I was doing the coaching thing. And I'm sure, and there was another job there. I can't even remember what it is. So I had 5 full-time jobs. I mean, I worked every day except Christmas Day for 13 years straight, okay, to repay the CIBC and to rebuild my career. I worked like a slave. I'm not asking for sympathy, it just is what it is, right? So you guys are in a much better position than I was. First of all, you're both younger than me, and second of all, you have resources. And last time I checked, Warren does not owe the CIBC or CRA $1.75 million.
No, thankfully not.
No, thankfully not, and nor does Greg. Greg shared his statement with me as well. So I went to have a look at this, and the moment that the door to this townhouse opened up, I realized why it hadn't sold. The lady who was selling it, she was an older lady. Her name was Joan, very nice lady, was a hoarder. Have you ever seen, a place that a hoarder lives in?
Watch the show all the time.
Yeah, but I had not. I mean, and she had, I don't know how many cats. She had 4 or 5, maybe 6 cats. I don't know. And they had been, you know, defecating in there.
Yeah.
And you had to turn sideways through these piles of precious stuff that she had been saving. She would save her tissues, her used tissues. You know, she couldn't throw anything out. So the smell was incredible. If my wife had come with me, she wouldn't have gone in. And I'm sure if your wife, Greg, or your wife, Warren, went with you, they would say, well, this is ridiculous. And obviously people had been making that conclusion, but I went through it. And I said to myself, you know, I think this is a really good townhouse. It just obviously doesn't show very well. And so it was advertised that all the townhouses at that time were selling for around $400,000, and I made an offer of $240,000. And Joan had a realtor, and the realtor said, well, that's ridiculous. It's insulting. I'm not even going to show it to my client. I said, oh, whoa, wait. I'm a real estate broker too. You are obligated to show it to your client. I mean, she can reject it, but you cannot not show it to her. And so she did, and it came back rejected, you know. And so that was September. So I waited about another 2 or 3 months. I think it was late November, you know, when Canadians all want to kill themselves. Winter's ahead, it's dark, it's getting really cold, it's starting to snow, everybody's depressed. And I asked the realtor, I said, I have the right to resubmit the offer, which I'm going to, and I have the right to be there when you present it. And I'm asserting that right. And she said, well, it's just going to get rejected. I said, yeah, maybe, but I'm going to redo my offer and resubmit it because you haven't sold it. It's now, you know, another 90 days. So I sat down with the realtor and with Joan, and I said, Joan, you know why you should sell it to me? I said, there's 2 reasons. Number one, I told her my sob story. I did. I said, it's all true, you know, I'm broke. But I'd like to buy it because I need a place for myself and my family. And that would be number one. So yeah, I want you to feel sorry for me. And she laughed, but I said, it's true. You know, I have a great reputation, but I don't deserve it. And that was number one. And then I said, number two, is you don't have to throw out any of your precious stuff. Nothing. You just give me the keys and you walk out. And, you know, because when you're a hoarder, apparently you just can't throw anything out. And I said, you can just leave all your precious stuff here. I'll take it as is, where is. You give me the keys, you walk out. So the realtor gets mad at me. And she said, well, you got to do better. You got to do better. And I said, well, okay, I can do better. So the realtor goes, okay. So I increased my offer by $1,250. So I went from 240 to 241, 250. So I went up a little bit, but not very much. And I looked at Joan and I said, Joan, you are close to 80 now, right? She said, yes. You want to move on with your life? Yes. You want a new place? Yes. Sell it to me and just go on with your life. Because, I mean, she was okay financially. She was certainly better than I was. And she agreed. And over her realtor's strenuous objections, she said, I'll sell it to you, Bruce. And she did. Now, you might ask yourself how I paid for it. And I'm going to pause the recording if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're back on. So after we had renovated this place and had it reappraised, and we were able to get a new mortgage in place, new first mortgage at reasonable rates, we were able to take about $50,000 or $60,000 out of this little townhouse, you know, and then I believe in this methodology, like really right down to my cells, you know, that it's buy, hold, animate, renovate, refinance, take money out tax-free, rinse and repeat. That's the formula. And that, you know, you think, oh, well, Bruce, that's not my formula. That's Warren Buffett's formula. That's the formula that European families, the rich European families in the United Kingdom, in France and many other nations have been doing for hundreds of years. This is not new. So I didn't invent this. They did. But all of the advice, frankly, boys, that you will get from other real estate coaches and from financial advisors and bankers and lawyers and accountants are completely wrong, in my opinion. And to go back to those three financial advisors that I went to see, I think the financial planning industry is selling Canadians and Americans and many others down the road. They're selling them down the river, I think is the right expression, providing terrible advice, just absolutely terrible advice. And I don't remember all three of the plans that they came back with, but I remember one of them, this one guy wanted to sell me an independent pension plan funded through life insurance that would cost me $10,000 a month. I wasn't even making $10,000 a month. And what he didn't tell me, Warren and Greg, was that if I had been stupid enough to follow his plan and buy that life insurance policy, he would have got an $80,000 upfront commission for signing me to that. He didn't disclose that. I found that out later. So what I did, and the reason that I'm on the call with you guys, is I talked to the so-called top 3 financial planners in Ottawa who gave me terrible advice. And I realized that this industry was giving not just me this advice, but millions of Canadians and tens of millions of Americans the same advice. So I started coaching because I thought I had a better plan. And I truly believe that. And I have now coached over 2,500 people, Warren. It's gotten to, for me, for a sole practitioner, it's quite a big practice. And people who have implemented the business models, I have something like a 98 or 99% success rate. It's pretty high. So let me show you what this townhouse looks like. We still own it, of course, because I'm a buy and hold guy. So here you're coming in the front door. And this is a den. You can see we put in Brazilian hardwood floors here. Fireplace here. You know, Greg, that and Warren, all of our apartments that we own and the ones that we manage have tech packages. You're aware of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have, you know, large screen TVs that are mounted on the wall. They stay with the unit.
Wow.
The moment that tenants move in, their Netflix works, Spotify works. Spotify's the music service. Amazon Prime works, Crave TV, HBO, obviously high-speed internet. We put in very, very good internet and Wi-Fi so that there are no dead spots. You know, I hate it when I see the clients of mine trying to go around their house to find a place where the signal's strong enough to do Zoom. I just hate that. We avoid that. And the tech packages that we resell are one of the top profit centers for us these days. Okay, I just want to be clear on that. Then you can see we put California shutters. We do not allow any of our tenants to put up curtains. You know, in some of our buildings, young people will put up like a bed sheet because they don't have any money, or not a whole lot. They'll put up a bed sheet, an orange bed sheet, you know, or they'll put up a flag with the marijuana leaf on it. And you're all of a sudden your building gets a you know, just kind of, it degrades, right? Because a lot of people don't understand that real estate is about marketing and branding, all right? And this generation, the young generation, you know, the young people between 20 and 40 are the most brand conscious generation of all time. And I apply branding to real estate too, all right? So California shutters are part of our brand. And hardwood floors are part of our brand. We put in, I guess, a little wet bar here. You can see it there. We didn't have enough money to do a complete replacement of the kitchen, so we just refaced the cupboards and added California shutters, cleaned it up, I guess. This is the dining room, put in a nice chandelier here. You can see the Brazilian hardwood again. This is the living room here. These windows face west, and can you see the 3 holes we cut in the drywall here?
Yep.
That's to allow light to penetrate into the building. That's a very important part of what we do, because nothing, you know, I mean, Canadians have 6 months of winter and 6 months of darkness. And so having more natural light is really important. So you can see it's a bit of a cathedral ceiling here too. Which is kind of nice. It's got a fireplace. That wasn't new, but we built a bit of a mantle here. It has a beautiful deck. You can sort of see this is up on, I think, on the 3rd story. I call this townhouse a water view because if you're tall and it's in the middle of winter, if you stand just over here, you can see the Ottawa River.
Yeah.
You have to be, Greg, how tall are you?
Just about 6 foot.
Yeah, so anybody say my sons are 6'1", 6'2", so anybody 6 foot and taller can see the water. But I'm a little shorter. I'm about 5'10", so I can't. But my boys can. So I call it water view, but that's a bit of a stretch. This is the pathway that leads to the Ottawa River, and you can see that these are, so there are 2 sets of townhouses. This is a picture taken from my townhouse on the other side.
Yep.
Then this is a bathroom that we kind of rehabilitated on the main floor. We added a stacked washer and dryer. Then we put Brazilian hardwood going down the stairs with some carpet as well. This is the master bedroom. This is the master bedroom bathroom. This is the stairs going down. There's another bedroom below. Then bathroom there, again, not really fancy. We didn't have enough money to completely redo it, so we just cleaned it up as best we could. This was a 3rd bedroom, but I used it as an office. This was my office at that time. It has its own ingress and egress, which is very important for offices. So when I was doing coaching, when I could actually see people, Warren, they could visit with me, you know, and I could leave the office if I wanted to and walk down to the river or take my kayak there and do that. You can even see my mouse pad here, Warren and Greg. It has my old Senator's logo on it. All right, so that's my office. Then you go down one more level. It's got lots of levels in it. This was our yoga room. These are my kids here, or 3 of them. Then it has a little bit of an outside nook here. You can see where you can, and then this is the pathway to the river, and then you can see the Ottawa River. So Greg, that's kind of how I got my restart, you know, and it's also why I'm coaching, because you know, I mean, I don't know what your experience is with financial planners, but mine has been really terrible.
I'd say on my end, if I had trust in all of the financial planners, I wouldn't discuss other things, right? So it's like I'm an economist by training, so I have my own views on and training and how things move, and most of the time to this point, I've been, I'll say, luckily and been right, but I mean that's why there are some basics in the economics world, as I'm sure you're aware, given your background. But at the end of the day, land is something that you can't create more of unless they get this whole moonshot thing all sorted out, and we got another planet to go to. But I think that's going to be outside of our our generation. So, you know, those who own the means of production get wealthy. At the end of the day, that doesn't change.
Well, you know, if you think about it, you know, the stuff that I teach saved my financial life, and in some ways too, it saved my life, you know, in a way. And so, you know, I believe it's the gospel according to Prof Bruce these days. And I have over 2,500 disciples now who are fellow travelers. And the stuff that we are doing in real estate is really, truly groundbreaking. I think the stuff that myself and this group of people that you're now part of, and what you will learn, not just from me, but from them as well, you know, are doing fantastic things. Did you guys, I think, Greg, you did see, and you've been in touch, I think, with Tim Reed. Did you see the Little Steps Academy video that he did?
Yeah, I did. And Tim and I actually had a chat last Friday for about an hour or two. So pretty interesting where he's gone with that as well, for sure.
So Warren, are you familiar with what we're talking about?
Yeah, you had briefed me on it previously. It's where he kind of has in-house nanny daycare services.
Yeah. So there are many powerful business models, and Little Steps Academy is one of them. There's many others. But, you know, if you guys had bought that building, you know, I looked at some of the buildings that you've been sending me, Greg. If you had bought one of those buildings in Perth, for example, certainly that one on the main drag could have been an excellent location for a Little Steps Academy.
Yeah.
And
that's still open.
I think you
should. Actually, it's on our agenda to talk about today.
I think we should. And you know, if you think about it, Warren, like some of the most powerful business models are the ones where at least one part of the occupancy is something that you control yourself. You know, it would be as if you know, you own a huge hotel chain that needed woodworking.
Yeah.
And they needed custom furniture.
One feeds the other, right?
I wonder where they would go for their custom, you know, millwork.
I would hope.
Well, I would think so.
Yeah.
So Little Steps Academy, when Tim explained the model, and Warren, have you actually seen the video?
No, I have not.
If you guys actually do decide to do something with it, which I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, that's up to you. As a coach, I'm just here to help, not to tell you what to do. But you should watch that. I thought Tim did an excellent job on the video. What did you think, Greg?
Yeah, he did. He hit most of the, I mean, he's well spoken and he was clear, and the video is well done. And for the most part, he hit most of the questions that we ran into. The few outliers that we chatted about more specifically last week were more about the variations that would have to be made to deal with the Ontario regulatory frame, right? Because it's quite a bit. There are a number of significant variances from where he's operating in Alberta, and so some of that would require that you make some alterations to the business model, but otherwise, like, really well kind of laid out for sure.
Yeah. So of all the properties that you've looked at, because one of the things I'd like to talk about before we run out of time on this session is your business, Maple Millwork, you know, and where you're going. But before we do that, I thought we would at least look at where you two are going together as co-venturers. Which of the many buildings that, you know, because I have them all here, which of the many buildings, Greg, that you've looked at is maybe top of the list?
Wow.
21 Wilson?
Yeah, I think it's this one here. Is it this one, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me what your idea is behind 21 Wilson.
Well, the baseline thinking is kind of main that concept of mix of commercial and residential space, right? As it stands, 3 apartments up and then a couple of down. Having been through it now, I think there's a couple of additional opportunities. One is that commercial space that's currently unrented, it can easily be subdivided into at least two units. Where your little red squares are, there is actually a third kind of micro unit at the very back with its own ingress already, that would allow for creating three spaces in there. The outlier that Warren and I have been kind of batting around is that it's got a full basement as well. That would be excellent storage space. It's just very difficult to get, and so trying to how to make that serviceable as well. The big outlier, I'll say, is that about half the upper floor, like the 3 units are rented out. It's 2 individual elderly gentlemen in the single units, and then like a family that's in the, or older couple that's in the upper unit, the larger 4-bedroom unit. It's actually his father built the building, and they have a rental agreement or a lease agreement at just over $500 a month for the 1,600 square foot apartment on top. And so, like it's financial ruination at to maintain that rate. But then the question is how.
I tuned out for a second, Greg. I apologize. I just was somewhere else for a tiny second there, Greg. What for 1,600 square feet? What is he paying?
$540 a month.
Yeah.
Well, I want some of that.
Yeah.
I think everybody would.
What we can gather from it is that his dad bought or built the building. He had a lease, like basically rented it to him, and now as long as it's in there, basically that's protected, right? So it's a gorgeous space. It looks straight out of 1960, and the whole building is in excellent condition.
How much are they asking? How much are they asking for this one?
$695.
Yeah.
So you probably have figured out this about me, Greg, and Warren and I share this. I know is that we like to buy buildings that no one else wants, because trust me on this, no one else wanted Aikens Road, right, Warren?
Nobody.
I can't remember how many days that was on the market. At least 300 or 400.
Yeah, it was 2 years plus that nobody.
Oh Christ, it was like 700 days on the market.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's got a horrible lease, to me is good news. And the reason it's good news is that nobody else will want it for exactly the reasons you've talked about. So how do you? I mean, I'm going to ask you this, Greg. This is a skill tested question. You know the answer, I'm sure. How do you compensate for a terrible lease like this?
Well, either A, you make up for it in other areas, or B, you figure out a way to break these, right?
No.
I mean, from what I've done from a research perspective.
You make up for it by reducing your offer.
There you go.
So let's say you could rent that place for $2,000 a month. I don't know, but I bet you could rent a beautiful. It's a 3-bedroom apartment, if I remember.
It's huge.
4
bedrooms.
Oh, you're killing me. So a 4-bedroom apartment in Perth is going to be $2,200. Okay, I'm just guessing, but let's say it's $2,200. It means that you're missing out. Are you ready for this, Greg? You're missing out on $1,700 a month of income. Okay, so Greg, have you got a calculator there?
I don't need one.
No. I've got to make you do some numbers.
Oh, he's a master.
All right. Okay. Well, I hear it. So if you take say the deficiency is $1,700 a month, multiply that by 12. What do you get?
20,000.
Okay.
20.
Just shy of 20. Yeah.
All right, we'll say 20,000 just to make it easy. Multiply that by 0.66. And the reason I use 0.66 is that about 34% of all the money you collect in this kind of real estate goes out the window for OPEX, operating expenses. That means property taxes, insurance, vacancy allowance, property management, administration, repairs and maintenance.
Yep.
So multiply that number by 0.66. What do you get?
About 13.3.
That sounds right. And the recommended going in cap rate that I want you guys to achieve, and everybody else I coach, whether you're in Long Beach, California, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Ottawa, Canada, or Perth, Ontario, is 6%. I don't want you guys to buy anything with a going in cap rate less than 6. Hopefully it'll be more, but not less than 6. So if you divide $13,000 of net operating income that you don't receive by 0.06, what do you get?
Inverted.
807?
Hmm?
807?
Yeah.
You didn't do it right, Warren.
I didn't.
I'm waiting for Greg. I'll ask the genius on the call.
Yeah, that's the numbers guy.
Ask the numbers guy.
216,000.
216,000, correct?
Yeah.
So do you understand that, Warren? Your offer to make up for a shortfall of $1,700 a month in gross operating income, which is about $13,000 a year in net operating income, is $216,000. It has a tremendous, so Greg, you were absolutely right to point out this is a critical flaw. You called it ruination. You're absolutely right. You got that spot on. So what are they asking again?
695.
Yeah. So what you would tell the realtor is, look, here's my offer. I'll give you $620,000 for this building. I mean, I'm not telling you what the offer should be. I'll give you $620,000 for this building if I can get vacant possession. Or I'll give you $420,000 if I can't. And here's why. I could probably rent that 4-bedroom unit for about $2,200 a month. You guys have rented it out for $500 and some. I'm losing $1,700 a month. At a 6% cap rate, that's a $216,000 or almost $217,000 hit that Warren and I are taking on this fucking thing.
Yeah.
So we'd be happy to pay you closer to your asking price. You want, whatever you think it's worth. So let me ask you, if it was rented properly, what do you think it would be worth?
If it was rented properly?
Yeah.
When I ran all the numbers and we did and rented out the 3 kind of micro business sections, I think the overall rate is about $85,000 a year.
And your cap rate would be what?
In what?
And your cap rate would be what going in?
That would give you a cap rate of about 8.
Yeah, so which is very good. I mean, 8% is for this kind of a real estate investment is excellent. Okay, but if you don't have, if you have to absorb that lease, it won't be 8. Your cap rate won't be 8%. What will it be?
Oh God, if you have to absorb the lease, it'd be like maybe 1 or 2 if you're lucky.
Yeah. So you understand. So you are making up for it in your offer, and you basically would, if you're going to make an offer, it's a bifurcated offer. We'll pay you. So what would you pay? Let me ask you this question: if it was rented properly, would you pay $620? Would you pay $640? Would you pay $650? What's the number that you have in mind?
I'd say it would definitely flow cash and be worthwhile at $650.
Yeah. So I would say, look, which realtor are you working with? You working with my guys?
Yeah.
Nick and Simon, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would say to them, look, we're prepared to offer $645,500. I like the odd numbers. Okay. And $650 is a round number. It looks like that's just a number you picked out of the air, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So I would say I'm prepared to offer $645,500. You going to write this down, Mr. Froese?
Already did.
$645,500. or I'm prepared to offer $428,830 if I have to absorb that lease. So 645.5, give me vacant possession of that unit, fine. And what they can do, as far as you're concerned, they can give this guy 20 grand to move. Do you understand, Greg?
Yep.
I mean, when I have a tenant in a building that I own that I need vacant possession of, I'll go and talk to him. I said, what are your plans? You know, your lease runs until next July. I want to renovate this building. I need you out. And the guy says, well, I don't want to move. And I said, no, I understand that. It's going to be Christmas in another 2 months. What do you need? And he says, well, if I was going to move out, I need $5,000 to move. Okay, here's your $5,000. I'll give it to you as soon as I get the key or the keypad. I change the locks and you're out. I'm not giving it to them. Don't give a tenant money before they're actually out and you've changed the lock, because they'll take the money and then they won't leave.
Yeah.
No, I've done that. You say, here's 5 grand. I'll give you, I'll give you $500 now, cash or whatever, just to help you out a little bit. Go look for a place. When you find it, let me know. When you've moved, I'll change almost all of our units, Greg and Warren, have the keypad locks on them.
Okay.
That don't, if you're going to build a real big real estate portfolio, do not go with lock and key.
A giant chain.
we manage 352 units, and if we had keys for all of those duplicates of it, we'd have a fucking room full of keys. So almost all of them. We have a few that we haven't retrofitted, and the Yale locks that we use are really good. You can change, you can change the code. Just, you don't have to get off your butt. And so, that's the way to go. In terms of the tech package, we do all the tech that we talked about a few minutes ago, plus the keypad locks and Nest thermostats. Because the 2 biggest pain points is when your tenants lock themselves out and they call you at 2 o'clock in the morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, and they're usually drunk or stoned or now both, and they say, can you send somebody to lie myself out? And you go, oh God, and we have a property manager, he has to go let them in. But now we just, if they forget their code, we can just change it on the spot and let them in. So it's a big, that's one of the pain points. The other is that we use Nest T-Stats. You guys know Nest T-Stats?
Yep.
Mark, you know what they are? They're fantastic because, the other big pain point is people are always calling you and saying, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, so you can fool around with the Net T-Stat. Again, you have access to 352 thermostats just on your phone, on your app. It's pretty friggin' great. So in terms of building a real estate portfolio, there's never been a better time to do it. Never. It's a fantastic time to. The technology that mostly young people have created for us as landlords is beyond belief. It's just fantastic. But you don't have to go all out. Some people are putting in, blinds that are automated. I go, what? How stupid is that? If the sun is shining in your eyes, you're watching TV. With the California blinds, just shutters, just go and shut the shutters. That is stupid technology today. It's stuff that will break and stuff that will cost you money, to fix. But what will save you money are Yale locks that are keypad operated and have an app with them, and Nest thermostats. It will save you a lot of money, both in terms of operating costs and also in terms of energy use. If somebody's leaving a building, they're going to be gone for 3 months and they let you know, because they are required to do that. You can turn the temperature down in their apartment to 55 or 60 degrees Fahrenheit. You save a lot of energy for them and for you. All right.
Yeah.
So I think this building here to me has great potential, and I'm going to share my screen one more time. What do you think of it, Warren?
I love it. It's a bunker. If the end of the world is coming, that's the place I'd want to be. It's solid top to bottom. I mean, there's a few issues, obviously, when we were doing the walkthrough, with some slight leaks down in the basement, but I think it's more to do with the grading because it's paved parking on both sides.
Yeah.
And that was one of the other issues. just because the easement on the back side of the building is only 5 or 6 feet, I think they said.
Yeah.
And it's used mainly as access or parking for the adjacent building to the left side of the building.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know where that falls in. I guess it's good neighbors make, good relationships, and
Yeah.
you don't want to rock the boat too much, but that's really the one only issue. I mean, the thing is solid, but very dated. The yellow and pink toilets in the bathrooms,
Yeah.
and matching subway tiles on the walls, but in immaculate condition, like super well maintained. I mean, if the tenants are happy with the space that they're in, it's very, very solid.
Can I make a recommendation for you guys that will really change your cap rate?
Yep.
But you got to keep me on as your coach after the session. Can't fire me.
Committed for life, Bruce. I'm not going anywhere.
I love you, Warren. He's amazing. Greg, one of the things that, I've known Warren now for a few years is life is really quite tough. I mean, it is. There's lots of ups and downs for all of us, I'm sure. And you got to try and keep a sense of humor. So there you go.
Absolutely.
And so if we fool around a little bit on these sessions, I hope you'll understand. It's just Warren and me having fun, and I want you to enjoy the sessions too. I want to show you, this is a building in Quebec that I wanted to show you that I think will really help you, okay? If you buy 21 Wilson. And by the way, I'm in love with that building too. So this is a building that's owned by a former student of mine. I used to teach architecture. Oh, that was the other one I was doing. I was teaching architecture full time as well.
That's the fifth job.
I was at the Sprott School of Business. I had a tenure there, or a job there at the school, the Carleton University School, Israeli School of Architecture and Urbanism, and the Telfer School of Management, as well as the engineering faculty at the University of Ottawa. Oh, it's crazy. Anyway, so Eric Rosamond is a young architect, former student of mine, and he and his wife Sarah bought this building in Gatineau, Quebec, and it's just like you described, that Warren, that this is a bunker, and if there's a nuclear war, we're either going to go to your building in Perth or we're going here to Gatineau. This thing is amazing. Yeah. So his cap rate, he bought it with a going-in cap rate of about 6.5%. So just over the numbers that the basis that I had established for him. I was coaching him and Sarah. And it's just a bunch of apartments. It's really a pretty nondescript building in many ways. This is Eric on the roof. I took the picture of Eric taking the picture. So this is young Rosamond. And it's very, it's not, I don't think it's as nice as your building in Perth. There's the main door, and typically they're just a bunch of 2-bedroom apartments. As we're leaving, because I went over to have a look at it. This is before or just after they had purchased it. I said to Eric and Sarah, "What the hell is this garage door doing on the right-hand side here?" I said, "It's just an entrance to the basement." I said, "Well, I want to see the basement." So we go in the basement, and just like you were describing, Warren, this thing is just solid concrete with 10-foot high ceiling heights. And it's just, I mean, you could probably sustain a nuclear attack as long as it was, 30 kilometers away. I'm serious.
Yeah.
If you were in there, you probably would survive. You'd have to reinforce the garage door, otherwise the blast would come through that. But the rest of the building, holy smokes. So I said, "Eric, we just found," it's like the little leprechaun, with the pot of gold. And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "We just found a bunch of gold here." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Okay." So we actually got some street chalk, that the kids use. We went back in there and we chalked out 13 small workshops in this basement. And remember, it has that garage door leading downstairs. So you can actually come in there, pull that door up, bring your vehicle. A pickup truck will go in there, but not a 3-ton or 5-ton, but the pickup truck, you can get in there. And we built a corridor down there. He has 13 workshops there. He rented them out between $575 and $775, depending on the size, a month, plus HST, because it's commercial, right?
Yeah.
in Quebec, it's plus GST and QST. So in Ontario, it'll be HST, but in Quebec, they've got two taxes. So again, I'm going to ask Greg, the numbers guy, to do some numbers. So 13 workshops averaging around $700. So 13 times 700 times 12.
Okay.
How much is that? That's your gross income.
A lot. Holy Christ.
You'll see what I'm getting at.
About 108,000.
That's exactly right. And he got an appraiser in after it was all finished, and the appraiser valued it with an 11% cap rate. So, so multiply that 108 by 0.66 and divide it by 0.11. That's how much his value went up. So if you could do that for me, that would really help.
0.66 would put you at like 69,000, and so multiply by 0.66.
No, you do.
And divide by
You multiply
0.11.
by 0.66 to get the net operating income, and then you divide it by the fair market value cap rate of 11%. So divided by 0.11.
655.
627,000.
Yeah. So his building, which he bought for $450,000, which had an okay cap rate, once he had done this, went up $630,000. That was within a year and a half. He was able to do that, and then he was able to increase his mortgage. In Quebec, a 75% loan to value ratio is about all you can get. In Ontario, you can certainly do 80%, but in most places in Quebec, it's about 75%. So he and Sarah increased their mortgage by 75% of 630,000. How much was that? So 18 months later, that's what they took out in tax-free cash.
Holy cow.
Yeah, holy cow. So what is that?
So
you just multiply
they went
that,
from
the increase in value multiplied by 75%.
630 times 75, about 450.
Yeah, I think it was around 435 that he, and so Eric thinks I walk on water, but I said, no, there's only one guy who ever did that, and it's not me. And he laughed. But that is life-changing. And that was a few years ago now. And Sarah and Eric were then off to the races. He has a very successful architecture practice, very successful. He does huge projects for, some of those big retirement residence guys. Like, he is a really good architect. But on the real estate side, he wasn't doing very much, but he is now. And he's not in competition with his own clients, because these big retirement residences are not going to have a few little apartments and some makerspaces, right? So you can't compete with your clients. If he were to build a retirement residence, I said, that's a no, you can't do that. You'll lose all your clients and your architecture business will dissolve. So don't do that. But this is fine. It's not in competition with his own clients. So that is a life-changing experience for and they're young people. Sarah would be in her 20s, I think, late 20s, and Eric's in his mid-30s. So let's go back now to your building. How big is the basement? What is the ceiling height down there?
Just for 6.
6'6"?
No, it's maybe 6'2", 6'3".
So,
I can walk under it without dipping, but anybody taller than me couldn't.
So one of the things that you could do, and by the way, it would be makerspaces down there will work better, in my opinion, than storage space. There is too much competition these days from, do you know Diamond Storage, guys?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And I think I have like across Canada, the United States, I think I have 14 or 15 clients in the mini storage business. And those guys they have that market corner between Diamond and those mini storage companies. I mean, holy smokes. Some of my clients are pretty big. They're tough to compete with. So if you have substandard storage in your basement, you'll get the wrong clients. Trust me on that. So people wanting to hide their heroin stash will rent from you. And you don't want those clients. But you know, as you know, I think Warren, you know, I have some workshop spaces and storage space of my own that I own. And for every call on storage I get 4 or 5 or 6 for workshops. Everybody has a gig today, Greg. Everybody. So the one thing that would help you is if you could find a way to put a dumbwaiter in this building. Do you know what a dumbwaiter is?
The conveyor belt system that's there.
They have a conveyor belt?
Yeah.
What? You're kidding.
Yeah.
They have a conveyor belt? You got to be kidding.
They have a conveyor belt right up the center of it that feeds out onto the main floor. It's the old
Oh my God. Okay.
LCBO.
You remember the little leprechaun that was down, I found underneath Eric and Sarah's building? We just found the same leprechaun. He just visited you guys.
Yeah.
Now, gentlemen, one of the things you shouldn't do is you should not tell the sellers any of your animation strategies. It's none of their business. The only thing that you tell the sellers is all the issues and the problems that you're facing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what you share with them, because you are not required, you know this, you are not required to disclose all the opportunities. These are your private, you know, and you might not tell Nick and Simon either.
No.
You know, because you want them to be as authentic as they can be, and it's nobody's business but your own. I'm coaching you. They're your realtor, and the seller has their own representative, right?
Yeah.
So you can't lie to people. Don't lie. That's a bad idea. But you don't have to disclose a damn thing.
Yeah.
To anybody other than your coach.
Okay.
All right. But to me, having a conveyor belt. Oh, and the makers will just love you. How big is it? How many square feet is that basement? It looks pretty big.
It's the full footprint of the building, and so I think at one point it's what was it? It was
3,200 square feet.
3,200 square feet.
Oh wow.
Right?
Oh, so Greg, we're gonna just have some fun. It's 3,100 square feet or 3,500?
32. It's 1,600 square foot per side, right? So 32. Yeah. We lose the back 800 square feet probably because it's in the other side of that wall.
And that's where the boiler.
2,400.
So you guys probably know how to do this on Google. I'll show you a little trick. Okay. Here's the map of 21 Wilson. We're looking at the aerial photograph, right?
Yeah.
So if I right click here, sort of on the corner of the building, and I go measure distance, I can go here, here, I'm clicking, right? Here, whoop, here, and here. And you notice at the bottom, can you see at the bottom, it shows you how many square feet it is. Isn't that a cool little trick?
That is neat.
Can you see that, Warren?
Yeah, I can.
So Google Maps says it's the footprint of the building is around 3,900, but obviously I was a little too generous. I'll move it a little bit, see what I can do.
No, but that would make sense because we weren't allowing for the unit that's at the end that has its own separate space.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it has the boiler room kind of down in that basement area. So you're losing about 800 square feet, I would imagine.
So it says, I mean, I just checked it again and I went a little bit skinnier. It's around 3,600 square feet. Google Maps is unbelievable.
That's
So
about right.
I am the world's leading expert in micro workshops. I am, but I'm probably the only one.
Yeah.
So it's politically incorrect, but it's kind of like saying you're the tallest dwarf.
Yeah.
So or you're the best hockey player in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm probably the best hockey player in Ecuador too, or at least I used to be. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. So I think the ideal size for workshops is from 300 square feet to 500 square feet. Especially these small ones. I mean, you are an expert in this now too, Warren, since you have so many of them there. Where's your sweet spot on Aikens Road?
See, I mean, it's hard because we went into it kind of unknowing,
Yeah,
and initially it was the smaller units that everybody showed interest in.
right.
But once the tenants got in there and started to grow their business, those smaller units turned into bigger and bigger and bigger units. So it's kind of that juxtaposition. You get them in, and then they want more space and keep adding and adding and adding. Pilot Precision being, a key example. They started
Absolutely.
with like 1,500 square feet, and now they're at 3,500 square feet of the building at the back there.
Yeah, I think they want more space too.
They do.
But that is a very strong point that Warren mentions. And so what I wanted Warren and his partners to do, which I never really got them to think it through this way, is even if you can't expand your space on Aikens Road, I wanted you to buy another building not too far away.
Yeah.
And you could graduate people from Aikens Road to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So you would plant the seeds and then you would harvest them.
Yep.
Am I making any sense, Warren?
Absolutely.
So what I mean by that, Greg, is if you buy the property on Wilson Street and you put in, say, you've got, I don't know, we'll say 3,000 square feet, and you put in 6 maker spaces of 500 square feet, just as a number, go and buy another building, an industrial building that no one else wants, also in Perth, and do the same thing there, only you then will have the ability to harvest the seeds. You have the seeds on Wilson Street and you have bigger spaces available on another property. Am I making any sense there?
Absolutely.
Totally.
So Warren, I ran the largest mini office operation in Eastern Ontario. We had 120 mini offices downtown Ottawa and another, I think, 44 in the west end of Ottawa in buildings that I own. Unfortunately, they ran away when the Sens went bankrupt. But we owned a Heritage Place downtown on Queen Street and Queen Street and O'Connor. It was about 30-story building, and floors 9 and 10 were mini offices. You know what mini offices are, right?
Yeah.
So they were offices. They're furnished. Back then, that we didn't have internet, but they had fax machines. It was really cool back then. Fax machines, reception, furniture, telephone. Everything was there. Voicemail. We didn't have email back then, but they were all equipped, and they were operating. Typically, we operated between 94 and 98% occupancy, but every once in a while, we would actually get to 102, 104% occupancy. And you ask yourself, how do you get to be more than your capacity? Well, we had little tiny desks that you would see in libraries when you were a student. The little time, and we put them in the friggin' corridors where we could have people who were waiting for a mini office. So we would actually end up over 100% capacity. But what I did, it helped me grow, I had about 1 million square feet of office space that I owned back then. And so I would start a lot of these companies. Apple in the 1980s came to Ottawa, came to Canada from Cupertino in 1983, and they were in one of our two of our mini offices downtown. They were selling to schools and then selling to the government of Canada. They're Macs. I don't know if you remember what they looked like, little rectangular things. They were fantastic little computers back then, and they were selling them like popcorn. And so they only needed 2 mini offices. Fine, we rented 2. I had never heard of Apple, and then I bought 15 or 16 Macs as soon as I saw how good they were, for my own staff. Yep. And within a couple of years, they needed 5,000 square feet in another building. So we used the mini offices to populate our office buildings. It was very successful.
Yeah.
Let me show you what one of my clients is doing in Kitchener, Waterloo. So his name is Shadi Fahal. Shadi is his first name. Shadi. His last name is Fahal. Really brilliant young man. He's like 35 or 36 and very successful. So he is in this workshop space in a big way. I mean, I've been coaching him for quite a while, and he's a brilliant guy. So I call it Shadilac Workspaces. I like his first name, Shaddy, and I just I call it Shadilac Workspaces. And it's a riff on Cadillac. I hope he doesn't get sued. So he bought, Warren, he bought an 80,000 square foot building, this one here.
Yeah.
Very similar to Aiken's, or only a little bit bigger. He bought it for 1.2 million bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not very much.
It's
$1.2 million and divided by 80,000. It's like $15 a square foot. That's even less, Warren, than I paid for my Belleville building. You know, the Belleville building I bought?
Yeah.
And like I said, you can't build a doghouse for $15 a square foot. A doghouse is about $40 a square foot. So he bought this building for like almost no money. And the reason he got it for like nothing is it was 80,000 square feet. It had been vacant for at least 2 years. And it has, what is your ceiling height at Aiken's, 10 foot 2?
10'2".
Yeah, he's better than you by like 10 inches. He's 11 feet.
Yeah.
And it's a long, I'll go back here. It's a long, skinny building, right? So typically, big industrial users, they don't want something that's got 11-foot ceiling height.
Yeah.
And they don't want something that's long and skinny. But as soon as I started coaching Shaddy, I said, oh my God, Shaddy, this is perfectly set up for micro workshops. So within like a few days, maybe 2 weeks after he heard about this model, because he bought it just because he could, but he didn't really have any idea what he was going to do with it. He and I drew up this little plan here, and he started building them. Like 2 weeks after he and I talked about it, maybe it wasn't even 2 weeks. It was a week later he started building them. And these are all between 400 and 800 square feet. So here's what's happened. As fast as he can build them, he's renting them. And if you think about the long, skinny building, he's putting in overhead doors with man doors in them on each one, right? So you understand what I'm talking about when I talk about an overhead door that has a man door in it, Greg?
I do.
Warren, you understand?
Yes.
All right. So you can lift them up as overhead doors, but they've got lights in them. Just to be absolutely sure, I'll show you one that I put in.
Like the one that was at your old house?
That's the one I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Just so we're absolutely clear on what it looks like. Yeah, this is the old house here. It's now a triplex, by the way. So you can see this is an insulated garage door, Greg.
Yep.
Special order from Lachine, Quebec, and it has a man door in it. You can see it here, and it has lights in it. And we mirror them, so the light will come in, but you can't see in.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got some privacy, because some of these workshops, have some very valuable machinery in them, right?
Sure. Yep.
And inventory, stainless steel pipe and all kinds of other stuff. So it works as a garage door, but it has a man door in it. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And so Shaddy is doing that with his spaces. And as fast as he can build them, he can rent them. They're just, Kitchener Waterloo has any number of makers, shakers, bakers, people who need workshops. And he's going to do the entire 80,000 square feet as mini workshops, because he owns other industrial buildings. So he'll have probably end up with 100 or 120 workshops in this building. And he'll use it as a feedstock for the rest of his portfolio, where he does have warehouses with 18 and 24 and 30-foot ceiling heights. So when somebody is successful, they can obviously move up and move out.
Yeah.
The other thing too that I like about this model is its financial resiliency. Let's just make the numbers easy, and I'll do the numbers this time, Greg. Let's say just to make it easy, he has an 80,000 square foot warehouse with, say, 100, 800 square foot workshops, okay? And he can rent those 800 square foot workshops roughly for $1,000 a month. So he ends up with 100 workshops rented at $1,000 each a month, is $100,000 a month in revenue times 12. So he's going to do a little better than that. It'll be around 1.2 to 1.3 million of gross income. I'm going to multiply that by 0.66. He'll have about $792,000 in net operating income. And you remember he bought this building for 1.2 million. In Kitchener-Waterloo, the applicable cap rate, the fair market value cap rate is 5.5%. Remember in Gatineau, Quebec, it was 11%.
Yeah.
In Kitchener-Waterloo, appraisers are giving much higher valuations. So if I divide the $792,000 of net operating income by 0.055, I get a building that will be worth about $14 million.
Yep.
Now that is life-changing. Even though Shaddy's very successful, he is really successful. Even for Shaddy, that's a big windfall.
Yep.
That's a big windfall. And the beauty about this model, boys, is that for Shaddy, if you have one 80,000 square foot user in a substandard building with 11-foot ceiling height, and that company goes bankrupt or decides that they can't sustain their operation in such a shitty building, and they move out, you've gone from 100% occupancy to zero.
Nothing.
If he has 100 little workshops there, and he probably end up with about a 120, and one of them goes broke or moves out, he's gone from 100 tenants to 99. It's no big deal. Now, you ready for the next step?
Fire away.
All right. I haven't yet told Shaddy this, but I can make him a bunch more money.
More than what he's currently making.
I can make him a bunch more money with this business, and I could make more money for you guys too.
Yeah.
This is a little harder to grasp. This is, you ever play that shell game where there's 3 shells and there's a P, and the guy does this and say, where's the P?
Yeah.
This is a model, which is a shell game, but it ends up with a huge upside, but it's hard to understand. Okay, so I haven't told Shaddy this, and I can't talk to him right now because unfortunately, he has a very severe concussion.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's a young man, and he decided, he's got a beautiful girlfriend, and they were out at the cottage, and there was a problem with one of the trees, so he went out there with his axe to, fix it up, and one of the branches, which weighs more than a ton, came down and knocked him out.
Wow.
Yeah, he almost died. Dead. Yeah, he almost died. I said, Shaddy, last time I checked, you were not a forester. You're not a tree service. Stick to what you know. And and I can't talk to him his doctor has ordered him to have no contact with anyone for 2 weeks. So I plan to tell him this riff on the model when I can. And thank God he didn't die. He's a very, very solid guy. His family's originally from Palestine, and they make very good entrepreneurs. It's sort of like genetic or something. I don't think I would tell Shaddy that, but there you go. So anyway, so what happened? What the riff is this, and I've done it myself. So let's say that you have like 5 or 6 workshops in the basement here. Your bank or your lenders, your mortgage company is not going to like that. They are not. I have argued with lenders until I'm blue in the face, and Shaddy's going to go through this too with his property. They're going to say, well, it would be better, if you had one tenant who was a AAA covenant who leased it for 10 or 15 years. These little workshops, they're only signing 1 and 2 year leases. They could all leave. Like, how stupid are they? But that is what a banker, a lender, and a mortgage broker will tell you. It is true. And they'll say that, oh, your model is much riskier, when in actual fact, it's much less risky. Warren, you know what it's like to have a 20,000 square foot user move out on you.
Yeah, you're left high and dry.
You're left high and dry. So I faced this exact same problem with my mini office business. You got to remember, I had 2 floors at Heritage Place, floors 9 and 10, with a beautiful feature stair. And we had 120 mini offices with probably 80 leases. You know, some people took 2 offices and some took 3 and some took 1. And I argued with Royal Bank and I said, it's a way better than having, you know, the 2 floors leased to one company and they go bankrupt or they leave. You know, these tech companies come and go. Did you guys hear that Shopify is not going to reopen their office?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how would you like to be the owner of that office building on Elgin Street?
Yeah. Well, that's
Warren, I still want some of those threads.
yeah.
Pardon?
I know. I was talking with some of the insiders, and because part of the agreement that they had was for the landlord to allow them to incorporate stairwells in between the 5 occupied floors that they
Exactly.
had. So they cut a 20 by 20 foot section
Yep.
of the slab out.
Yep.
Part of the lease agreement was they would have to reconstitute it once the lease was done. Well, they're moving out of that building, so right now they're taking out the stairs and repouring concrete, you know, in an occupied building, which is just an astronomical feat.
I mean, it's incredible. I know the story too because I talked to them as well. And
Yeah.
by the way, my advice to them was to pay Morguard, their landlord, 2 years of upfront rent and just walk away because they're going to try and sublet it. I said, gentlemen, there is no demand for office space right now.
Yep.
0. Makerspaces, yes. Apartments, definitely. Office space. I have a client, Warren, who owns a 750,000 square foot mall somewhere in Ottawa, and 2/3 of his stores are closed and can't pay their rent.
Wow.
Yeah, so you do not want to, you know, if you, Greg told me you want to buy shopping malls, no.
Yeah, not a good time.
How about we're going to buy downtown office buildings? No. These are models that will just, you know, if somebody gave you a free office.
We want to go the other way.
Exactly. No, I'm with you, brother. If somebody gave you a free office building, they would not be doing you a favor. Somebody has to heat and light and air condition and clean and maintain and pay the property taxes on those buildings. Those buildings downtown now are costing between $30 and $40 a square foot for operating costs.
Wow.
That's not rent. So if you have 170,000 square feet, let's say you had a 170,000 square foot building downtown by itself at $30 a square foot, it's $5 million a year just to maintain it.
Yeah.
And you have no tenants and no prospects of any tenants. So I told them that the best thing for Shopify, in my opinion, is to just give Morguard two years of lease payments right now. They can afford it. They can write the check. Just give it to Morguard. And if I were talking to Morguard, I would tell them, forget it. Repurpose that entire building for live, work, maker spaces, that kind of thing. So you would just convert it to, you know, small apartments, and you'd have maker spaces in there, and you'd have, you know, co-working spaces in there, but it would be live and work in the same place.
Yeah.
There's just no possibility that somebody else is going to come along anytime soon and need 170,000. Even the federal government of Canada is looking at working from home on a long-term basis.
Yeah.
So anyway, coming back to this little secret I'm going to share with you is back in the day, I was arguing with the Royal Bank who held our mortgage on our properties, both in the West End and in downtown Ottawa. And they would not give me any credit for the 2 floors downtown that were producing outstanding income. Nor would they give me any credit for the 1 floor in the West End that was full of many offices. They said, well, we're going to treat that as if they were vacant. So that's so unfair because they're amongst our most profitable floors. Well, you don't have 10-year leases and you don't have AAA covenants, you know. Oh, Apple's not a AAA covenant? Last time I checked, they're the first $2 trillion company on this planet. Anyway, so it was an argument I couldn't win. And then I was kind of discouraged, actually. And so a banker, I couldn't believe it. I remember his name is Wayne Kendall from a Royal Bank, came to me and said, I have an idea, Bruce. Why don't you create another company, a subsidiary? So we had a company, Greg, called Terrace Investments Limited. It was the first.
Okay. I know what you're doing. Yeah.
It was the first parent company of the Ottawa Senators. But what Wayne suggested, and it turned out it was absolutely brilliant. Wayne suggested is that we create a subsidiary company owned by the same people, i.e. me, called Terrace Corporate Centers Limited. And Terrace Corporate Centers Limited would sign with Terrace Investments Limited a 10-year lease with 2 5-year options. I said, Wayne, that's just a tissue. That's just a tissue. He said, Bruce, trust me on this. Do it. Because if you do it, I'll be able to include the lease as part of your income, and your mortgage will, you know, the amount you'll be able to finance will go way up. I said, yes, sir. So we immediately incorporated Terrace Corporate Centers Limited. But he wasn't just right, he was fantastically right. Let me tell you what happened next. So over the next 2 years, Terrace Corporate Centers Limited started to develop its own balance sheet, its own income statement, its own financial statements, its own corporate income tax, its own identity, its own brand. It had its own management. Greg Graham, who is now the president of Cardell, Ontario, Greg Graham, who's now the president of Cardell, Ontario, was the president of Terrace Corporate Centers. And he ran that business. It made $20,000 a month in profit because he ran it really well. And so it was making $240,000 a year on its own, as its own standalone business. And it was paying its rent to Terrace Investments Limited. So what I thought was just a shell game turned out to be very real. So you could form a corporation, Greg Warren Makerspace Company, give it a better name than that, Shadowlac Workspaces. You can't call it Shadowlac Workspaces.
I like the Warren.
By the way, it's Shadowlac Workspaces, making things happen.
Nice.
Isn't that nice? Making things happen, because people who are makers are making things happen. So it's really cool. So you need a name for this, and you would actually rent. This new company would actually rent that basement from your real estate company, and at a proper rent, and then they would sublease or license. It's called either a sublet or a license agreement. I use license agreements because it's less complicated. They would, and it doesn't require landlord approval. They would license the 5 or 6 makerspaces to other people. So when you actually are refinancing that building, then what also happened was, as Terrace Corporate Centers started to really get traction, they were able to go and lease other buildings, buy other buildings, and develop their own, thing. And when we were getting ready to bid for the Ottawa Centers, I knew I would need some cash. And, I don't like selling stuff, but I decided to sell Terrace Corporate Centers. We kept the buildings, but we sold Terrace Corporate Centers. Are you following me?
Yep.
And a company came along and they bought it from us for a few $1 million. And they're now called TCC Canada. They're still around. It was Terrace Corporate Centers, and they said, well, I said, what are you going to call your new company? They said, well, it's now TCCL. We'll just call it TCC. I said, okay, you got it. No problem. So it's still around, and it was quite successful. I don't know how they're doing in the pandemic. They could be shooting themselves. But are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So if you think about this 80,000 square foot building, Shadowlac Workspaces will rent from the real estate company. It will have its own balance sheet, its own income statement, its own income tax returns, and it can have its own financing. Yeah. And one day when you guys are old, it may happen, is that you could actually sell that business and keep the real estate. And that's exactly what I did. And I used that money and put it into the Ottawa Centers. And, the unfortunate thing about NHL teams is money goes in, but never comes out. All right. But as long as you don't blow your money on buying NHL teams, this concept will actually make you rich.
Good to know.
All right. So before we run it, we got another 20 minutes. What else do you want to cover today, Greg?
Warren, anything on your end?
No, I mean, just I guess it's more the approach of, what to me is what's an insulting offer, like, just using the Kinburn property as an example. They were going, I guess they ended up getting full ask, but how do you approach units like that? I mean, we went in with what we thought was a reasonable offer with it, well below what they were asking, and obviously we were nowhere close. So is it more wait for the perfect opportunity to come along and strike then, and it's just kind of the learning curve?
Greg, what do you think?
I think we have to be comfortable in the proposal that we put out there, and that's the approach that you have to take. It's going to suck because you're going to lose some that you really might want, but at the end of the day, if you, like you said, if you don't buy at the right price, there's no point in buying it at all.
I agree with that.
That's my head. If the numbers don't make sense, it's not worth doing at the end of the day. If you can't make money off of it and you don't have alternate way out. So, I mean, the discussion earlier on 21 Wilson is actually really helpful from that frame, because there are some outs when it makes sense, but you've got to be able to, it's got to make sense, right? And from a numbers perspective, like, the risk reward ratio has to be there.
So Warren, couple of things. On 21 Wilson, I don't want you to insult people. And they do feel insulted. I understand that. You know, I made that low offer for Ambleside Drive, $240,000 when they were asking $400. And certainly the realtor was insulted. But eventually I did get it. So, you know, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't. I'm like you. I would rather not. But you know, if you pay $690,000 for 21 Wilson and you absorb that lease for the next 10 years, you know, I mean, look, you know, maybe with the maker spaces in the basement, you'll be able to make up for that. But still, to me, I think you should think about it this way. The idea of putting those maker spaces or workshops in the basement, and that fact that you've got a conveyor is fantastic, but that idea is your idea. That belongs to you. You're doing all the work.
Yeah.
You should benefit from your own work. Why should the seller benefit from the work you're going to do in the future?
Not realizing.
So I think if you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't. But I think if you gave a bifurcated offer, if you told Nick is a very good negotiator, by the way. He is.
Yeah.
He's a very good negotiator, better than I am. And I mean that. He's really good. If there's another war in the Middle East, we're sending Nick. So I swear to God, he's really good. But if you say, look, we're happy to pay $650,000 for it, or $645,500. But we do need vacant possession of that unit, and I would say to Nick, look, you know, you don't have to offer the low end. You can keep that in your back pocket. You can say, look, we're willing to pay $645,500, but we want vacant possession of that unit.
Yeah.
And if you want to give that guy $5,000 or $10,000 to move, that's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not an insult. And then if they come back to you and say, well, look, we're willing to take $650,000, but you have to absorb the lease. Then you come back and say, well, wait a second, hold on. If we have to absorb a lease that's $1,700 below market, we're going to take a $200,000 hit.
Yeah.
That's not fair. So you can keep that second offer, the bifurcated offer, the second bifurcation in your back pocket. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does.
So now, guys, one of the things I have to emphasize to you is I'm doing the coaching. I do not have time to be your realtor. That's why I wanted Nick. Nick has the time to do it, and he has the skills. All right. So, Greg, you and Warren have to make sure that, I hope you're internalizing the stuff that we're talking about, and then you're able to make sure that Nick understands, because you know you're in the military. If you tell somebody who tells somebody who tells somebody who tells somebody, at the end of the day, you get a lot of soldiers killed that way.
Yep.
Indeed.
So I'm relying on you and Warren, Greg, to be very clear. Nick will do what you ask him to do, but you have to be very clear. And I won't have time to repeat this to Nick.
Yeah.
So
totally understood.
That's you. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Good. But I'm telling you, boys, if you could get a hold of that thing for $645 or $650, with vacant possession of that, and you could put some maker spaces in the basement, and you could maybe do this little bit of, shell game thing that I'm talking about. Holy smokes, that building will be terrific.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. The other thing is, could you put a Little Steps Academy in that building?
Again, I mean, I know Greg could speak more to this because he's been researching it a little bit, more in depth, and it's what's allowable for the Ontario standards, basically, right?
Yeah.
So, Bruce, based on my understanding of how the rules lay out on this, you could do the unlicensed version
Yep.
into that 4-bedroom unit upstairs right now, right?
Wow.
Because the space, like from a practical standpoint, the space would be big enough.
Yep.
And B, there's nothing in the rules that stipulate that you couldn't, like, it's a residential, it's a residential place, so you can play in that space at that point. You couldn't put it into any of the spaces downstairs because it's pretty commercial, so you'd have to go the licensed route at that point, right?
No, the 4-bedroom upstairs would be fantastic.
But it would be fantastic space for that because it's huge.
Oh my God. And if I understand the model correctly, in Ontario, you could only have the early childhood educator and 5 kids, not 6. So in Alberta, Warren, you can have 6 little kids. In Ontario, you're limited to 5. But I've said to Tim, in Alberta, he's charging too little. He charges $1,350, I think, per kid per month.
Yeah,
and he includes food in that.
Yeah.
And I said, Tim, you can't do that. Those little munchkins can eat your $1,300. So what I want Tim to do is I want him to change his pricing, by a couple of $100 and make the food extra. The parents should be paying for that, for Christ's sake. The other thing that I've talked to him about, and I think, Greg, you're familiar with this, is adding an elder care component to it. That might not work in a 2nd-story building, but it might. But Warren, you know what it costs to put a senior into a retirement residence, right?
Yeah.
In Ottawa, it's between $3,500 and $6,500 a month. Yep. So if the educator, the early childhood educator, also has her personal support worker certificate, which is not that hard to get, then one of the extra bedrooms could be an elder, and you might charge the elder $1,500 a month. Still tremendous deal for the elder to have somebody on site, who can help her out a little bit. Plus, a lot of retired people love children and want to be involved with children. Mm-hmm. So they could volunteer. So you could have a volunteer living in one of those bedrooms, and you could rent out, an extra $1,500 would make a difference. And in Perth, Ontario, I would charge $1,900, not $1,300 per child. And I would charge food on top of that.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that you would do if you did get a hold of 21 Wilson is you would put a little playland out there as well. You guys are probably familiar with my concept, or maybe not, of my concept about playland. People that play together stay together, whether they're residential tenants or they're commercial tenants or they're industrial tenants. And something I wanted to talk to you about Aikens Road, about putting a picnic table out there, about putting a ping pong table outside. So I am huge on outdoor games. So what I would like you to do at Aikens Road at some point, Warren, is if you guys decide that makes sense, is to put a little bocce court there, put an outdoor ping pong table there, put do you know the cornhole game? The beanbag toss game?
Yeah.
At the National Football League, every year I take my kids down to the Buffalo Bills home opener, and their girlfriends and boyfriends and husbands and wives, and now the grandchildren. We all pile down to Buffalo and we have a blast. Obviously, we couldn't go this year, but and I'm the designated driver, by the way, because all my adult children, they like to drink a little bit, especially at an NFL game. But we play cornhole and we do all kinds of, it's really fun. But I kid you not, Greg, if you get a hold of 21 Wilson, you're going to have a little outdoor area, even if you have to tear up a couple of parking spaces, you're going to have a little outdoor area where people can play ping pong, they can play bocce, they can play cornhole, they can sit and have a hot dog, place for the kids to play, place for the adults to play. And your tenants will stay longer and form a tighter community if there's some place where they can get together outside.
Absolutely.
It's very, very inexpensive to do, and it is amazing what happens. I have gone into situations with clients of mine where they have, 150 units, and they've got a lot of unhappy tenants for one reason or another. As soon as they have put a playland in where people can go and enjoy some fun time, their tenants stay longer and pay more and are happier. All right.
Yeah.
So a couple of other questions that Greg put on our we didn't get through everything, Greg, but we got through a lot of it. One other thing that Greg put on our agenda, Warren, was should you approach people for property not on the market? And my answer to that is no. For example, I owned a property. I wanted to buy the house next door. The couple who were there were very, very elderly, and unfortunately, they did both pass away. And I wanted to buy it because it was just right next door, and I thought it would make a good addition to our portfolio. But they would come and talk to me, we're thinking about selling our house at some point. And I would say, okay, good luck. I hope everything goes well. But I would never, ever, ever say I was interested.
Really?
And no. And the reason for that is, at least in my experience, and maybe your experience is different, Greg, in my experience, if you approach somebody and say, I'd like to buy your house, or I'd like to buy your industrial building, the price goes up, not down. Realtors and coaches are constantly telling the people they coach, or their realtor clients, that, oh, yeah, we should buy before they hit the market. But in my experience, that's the wrong time and the wrong approach. And sure enough, unfortunately, they did pass away. The property came on the market. I did not make an offer on the first day, the second day, the 10th day. And sure, there's a risk that somebody else will buy it. Okay, go ahead. But if it stays on the market for a few days and I don't buy property in a crazy market like this. I do not. The building that you're looking at in Perth, I think when you recalculate the numbers, Greg, and you do some maker spaces in the basement, I think you'll push the cap rate probably to 9, 10, or 11%. So that's really good. But those are the buildings that I buy. I do not buy buildings where, do you know one of our realtors in Orleans put a house up for sale and she got 60 offers on it? 60. She calls me up and she told me, Bruce, I got 60 offers. I said, oh, well, that's a lot, but you can manage it. Because I thought she said 16. No, she said 60. I said, no, you can't be. She said, I don't know what to do. I said, I don't either. So what we actually did was we put a spreadsheet together. We had to have a fucking spreadsheet. This is Bill's offer. This is Mary's offer. This is Shelley's offer. And this is the price. These are the terms. These are the conditions. These are the closing. I mean, on and on and on. It took forever. 60 offers. And as a realtor, you are required to present all of them. You can't say, well, I like this one better. You cannot. So that I would never do. If you guys are going to get involved in a bidding war, I'm going to quit as a coach. I mean it. I would be doing you a disservice. It is a terrible idea. That's why I like this property, because it has that horrible lease. That's a great advantage. All right. So a couple of other things that I want to say just on that subject. So you guys probably know what wholesaling is. Greg, you know what it is?
Yeah.
Warren, do you know what it is?
In the sense of?
So wholesaling is a real estate term mostly used in the United States, where you do what the question implied, which is you approach people who have property not yet listed, you tie it up, you give them an offer, and you try and flip the offer before closing. So you're wholesaling it.
Yeah.
Some of my clients have spent 30, 40, 50, or 60,000 US dollars being taught how to wholesale properties. It is end to end, top to bottom, wall to wall bullshit.
Really.
Almost nobody makes money doing it. And
Yeah.
what all of these coaches, I'm just warning you, all of these coaches out there they have beautiful young women selling this stuff. They do. I know one coach who does it or used to do it in Winnipeg. He had 4 of the most beautiful young women I've ever seen as his salespeople. He charges $61,000 up front, cash, to coach people on how to wholesale or how to flip houses. And almost all, I beg your pardon, Greg?
Stefan Arnio.
It could be. He's passed away. Greg, you know he's passed away, right?
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, he passed away in his 30s, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was very young.
Very young, in his 30s. You know, and a nice guy, but $61,000. And he told me that 95% of his clients that he teaches to either wholesale or flip fail. Now, if you failed on 95% of the orders that come into Maple Millward,
Wouldn't be around very
you would
long.
not be around. And if I failed on 95% of my coaching assignments, I would be out of this business because I would exit. That would be a horrible failure rate. And after about 2 years of this, and he was making a lot more money than I make. I mean, I charge almost nothing for my coaching compared to that. He came to see me here in Ottawa. I didn't know he was sick at that time, but he was. And he said, I want to get out of this coaching that I'm doing. Can I study with you, Bruce, to learn what you do? And I said, no. I didn't know he was dying, but I said, no. I said, Stefan, if I tie my brand to your brand, given the fact, I mean, there are a lot of people out there who remortgaged their house to give them $61,000. Then they tried to flip houses and lost money, big money. So his brand is what unfortunately was terrible. If you Google him, you'll see terrible reviews. I said, I cannot have you teaching the stuff that I teach. And I have a course in this, but I can't, I can't help you with that, unfortunately. So flipping houses and wholesaling, all of that stuff, Greg, is wall-to-wall, at least in my opinion, bullshit. And I can tell you, it doesn't work. One of my clients quit my practice. They had finished their 6 months of coaching, and I refused to teach them how to flip houses. They said, well, we're going to go study with Stefan. He tells us, all kinds of things. Middle-aged couple. And now in their 60s, they went bankrupt about 3 months ago. And they came to see me in tears. But at that point, there's not much you can do in terms of coaching to help them.
Yeah.
So Bruce, what about something like that 150 Rosamond place in Carleton Place, where it's not on the market, but it's also like in a state of derelict?
That's different. So if 21 Wilson was not on the market and you went to see them, there's no way you're going to get a good deal.
No, agreed.
150 Rosamond, I know that building inside out. I got all the pictures and everything when you mentioned it to me. That's different. If you can find the owner for that, we can help him with that, because that building inside, you have not been in it, have you?
No.
That building is
we just drove by.
Absolutely beautiful inside. Now, it might be horrible now, but you remember my Belleville property? I think I showed it to you guys, right?
Yeah.
Just before
and
we
you sent us pictures of this place too while it was still in decent shape. So
I'm telling you, I've been through that building top to bottom. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, it would cost a fortune to renovate it, but it is beautiful. Let me show you what we're finding. That one is different. If you find the owner, if Rob Morley is still involved, we could buy, might be able to take it off their hands for $2.
Yeah.
Do you understand? We might be able to say, look, guys, we'll give you $10,000 for the building, and at least you don't have to worry about it burning down, and you don't have to pay the property taxes.
Yeah,
that is different. That's a derelict building. I have helped. I helped buy one of my clients does this wonderful bed and breakfast thing and makerspace thing in Tamworth, Ontario, tiny town. We bought an old gas station that nobody else wanted. It was a big 20,000 square foot gas station in Tamworth, Ontario, about an hour or two from Toronto. And we approached the owner. It wasn't for sale, but it was absolutely derelict. And we got it for 25,000 bucks. So that's about $1.25 a square foot. You know, I bought the Belleville building for $23. Shaddy bought his building in Kitchener for 15. And Carolyn Butts, who is Nick Cripps's aunt, bought a building in Tamworth, which I helped with, for $1.25 a square foot. That's pretty good. And I helped another client buy a derelict building from Nestle in Chesterville. 450,000 square foot building, huge thing, owned by Nestle in Chesterville, which is a cute little town south of Ottawa, with 30 acres of development land. They got it for 450 grand, $1 a square foot. So they plus 30 acres of vacant land. So when you see, you know, abandoned factories or abandoned gas station, or it wasn't actually a gas station, it was like a you know, where they, you know, the mechanic, you know, where you could get your cars fixed. So it wasn't actually a gasoline station, so it didn't have pollution on it. It just had a big shell of a building. That is different. Okay, so derelict buildings, I think that's a very strong point. But I wanted to show you. I'll show you we got to end it because I got another coaching assignment to do. I want to show you the pictures that of this building. What I'll just share. This will be the last thing we do. So this is what the building used to look like. I guess, oh, that's not a very good picture. I got a better one here. This is what it looked like back in the day. So, you know, it had apartments here, and it had 3 stores at grade. And I'll show you, we're doing the demo right now, and just look at what we're uncovering in there. Beautiful old brick. You know, that was all covered up by all kinds of shit that these people did. And we found the old tin or copper ceilings, if you can see it there.
Wow.
Look at some of these features.
Oh, that'll be fantastic.
So you can imagine what this building is going to look like. The building was built in 1872. So we found, you'll like this one, we found 100-foot long single pieces of beams, wooden beams of old growth timber in there that are, you know, that are probably 18 or 20 inches this way, probably 14 inches this way, and 100 feet long, single piece.
Wow.
So we're exposing all of that. So it's going to be fantastic when we finish with it. So, you know, imagine all the dumbasses who have just ruined this building over the period of 150 years. So I'm with you on this, Greg. So if you are driving past, I do this all the time, you know, a derelict industrial building somewhere around Perth. If you buy 21 Wilson, you stop, take a picture of it, find out who owns it, and then we'll go friggin' get it off their hands. I mean, that's what Warren and his partners did with Aikens Road, Water Niagara. I think at one point it was on the market for over $1 million. All right. So was this helpful, boys?
Absolutely.
All right. So Greg, you and Warren have some work to do. See if you can pick up 21 Wilson. That would be fantastic. And now, don't forget, Warren, you have to do some work here too. I want a mid-month report from you. So I want to hear, don't go away, and I don't hear from you for a month. I want a mid-month report from you, because you've undertaken to do certain things. I need you, and I'll comment on it. And then if you need my help in something, so let's say you're negotiating with a lender, or you're negotiating with, you know, in something, or anything where I can drop in for 15 or 20 minutes on Zoom, I'll do that for you too. All right, gentlemen? And I'll download this video. It'll go up on YouTube, and it'll be available probably in a couple hours.
Fantastic.
See you guys.
Thanks so much.
A great day.
Alrighty.